could have the best idea, best product, and you could actually be crushing it, and you could be crushing yourself out of business by doing too well.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Baktari MD. Today, I actually have a very interesting guest who I think is going to be able to give some insight in some of the many topics we've covered over this past season. I want to welcome MC Laubscher. He is a business owner, investor. He's actually a podcaster and a best-selling author. And I had brought him on the show because he's going to help us figure out how to navigate our career life as we're a leader in an organization, to deal with finances, deal with talent, and use that to grow our company and take our company to the next level. So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's a big honor. So go ahead and give us a few blurbs about who you are, how you started, and how you got here, and then we'll go right into the questions.
Sure. So my name is MC Laubscher. I'm the founder of Producers Wealth. We're a wealth firm in the United States, servicing all 50 states. I'm originally from South Africa. I do reside in Pennsylvania now with my beautiful wife and my 2 children. So originally from South Africa, I came to the United States in 2001. Played sports up until then, and as I was playing sports, I took, and pursuing a career in sports, I took some of the capital that I generated through athletics, and I invested in a lot of real estate, started businesses, invested in other businesses, and I've had a lot of fun doing it and learning a lot. Fast forward to where I am today. I was introduced to the concept of a family office. I would say 5-6 years after I was in the United States, through friends that I met. Family offices, just private wealth management firms that manage the money of families of $100 million net worth and up. So became really good friends with folks. I still have maintaining relationships in that world, took some of those strategies. And then I started Producers Wealth in 2015, where we help folks implement and execute similar strategies in their own life, and especially working with business owners, as our mission is to elevate the financial well-being of business owners and their families and leaders in business. And then, as you mentioned, I've got a podcast, started as a passion project in 2016, interviewing interesting people in the world of business and investing, talking about alternative wealth strategies, alternative asset investing, and we've reached over 7.5 million people in 180 countries. So it's turned into an education kind of company. And then, as you mentioned, became a best-selling author this year, writing a book called Get Wealthy for Sure, the #1 financial strategy for business owners to multiply wealth predictably, where we just basically share some of the most powerful things that business owners and leaders can do to really move the growth and really elevate the growth trajectory of their businesses.
Wow, that's really important, because I think if you may have the best idea, you may have the best everything, but if you run out of capital or finances become an issue, it doesn't really matter how good your idea is or where you're positioned. You're going to have to get the financing in order to get next level. So tell us, what were you doing in 2015 as your last business before you pivoted to teaching others? I want to know, where you were at that time, and then how you used that knowledge to pivot into this.
Yeah, so I was a real estate investor during that time, and also at that stage, as I mentioned, implementing and executing similar strategies. So I was running some real estate businesses, and had other operating businesses. But yeah, I was at that stage really deep diving into it and kind of implementing and executing the strategies of my own life. During that time too, I did an MBA in finance because I wanted to really increase the financial skills that I had at that point. So that's how I spend that time. And then, we took what we were doing ourselves and started helping other people do that. And, one of the things that I'll share with you, I think I mentioned it briefly beforehand, is we've been able to catch on to certain trends way ahead of before the trends took off, right? So one of the trends, for example, was the online consulting world. So actually, during when I did my MBA in finance, one of the projects I was working on was consulting at Amazon. So we went in there. That was part of the program. We took a tour through the building and the facility. We walked around. I looked into the conference room, took a sneak peek in there, and what I saw at that stage completely blew my mind. What I, what I saw was one person sitting behind a table and had an entire screen up of people with in their small little boxes, and they were communicating with each other. Now I was looking at them using Skype. Now people go, oh, it's a Zoom call, whatever. Well, you do that in 2012, 2013, around there. That's a different ball game. So at that stage, I knew that the business that we're in the process of building, of how we're going to launch this, was all going to be done online, because I just saw the future. There it is.
Right.
That's how
That
we're going to
epiphany hit you.
yeah, and everybody thought I was crazy at that point, right? So it was things like that that have positioned and really helped in the trajectory too of some of the businesses that I have been involved in, being involved in crypto businesses, and 2015, 2014, and so forth. Those things propel where you want to go really quickly if you can identify trends, position yourself and your business correctly for them, and then catching that wave. So that's kind of where I went from during that time, that really, really propelled our business growth too, and our reach.
So I want to get to, as you know, we talk about Crash CEO School on my podcast, where we teach leaders in organizations how to help their organization get to the next level. Obviously you have a lot of different strategies, whatever, but what advice would you give someone who is either starting their company or down the journey, maybe 3-4 years, they're the CEO, the company is starting to take off or is taken off, and what are the pitfalls they need to look for, and what are some strategies in terms of not running out of capital and positioning their finances so they can take advantage of opportunities and be able to pivot as needed as their company moves in the right direction?
Great question. So especially that specific avatar, the biggest challenge that every single business owner is going to have is cash flow management. And I call it the seasons of cash flow. So the summer season is your highest revenue months. Very simple to manage cash flow during that time, right? So you've got a lot of revenue, you got a lot of profit. That's the easy times. The opposite of that is your winter, which is your lowest revenue month, and the slow times. Now, if you're listening to this as a business owner that is in that kind of time frame, you've started your business, you're 3 to 5 years into this, you're nodding your head, and you could probably, if I put you on the spot, tell me when your highest revenue month is and your lowest. So for me, it's May is my highest revenue, and it's usually August is my lowest. Take the majority of August off, go visit family in South Africa, right? But you still have the same overheads. You still have employees that you're paying. You still have contractors, a lot of other things that you're paying during the entire time. So for people that have never done this before and have never been told this, they kind of realize pretty quickly, oh wow, I have to manage my cash flow better, because if I don't, I'm not going to have enough capital to get through the doldrum months, be really slow, and my lowest revenue months. My months pretty easy. And also, what propels you into your highest revenue months is the spring. Now, in this spring is the time for uh, product development, right? So maybe you're working on different marketing campaigns to launch, to generate more interest, to generate more leads, to convert them into clients and customers, so that you hit the summer again, right? But that happens in the spring, usually right after the winter. So not only will you struggle with cash flow in the winter, where are you going to get the capital from to get all those things in place? You're going to probably hire people. You're going to pay outside services. So where does that come from, right? So you have to have a plan for that. So you have to have a proper cash flow management plan, figuring out how much cash reserves you need to build up and set up for yourself. And we have a strategy that we teach of how to position it so that you can access it, to use it at any given point in time, instead of going begging to a bank constantly, because that's what happens to a lot of people before they talk to us. It's great during the summer, then the winter comes and the spring, and they're back sitting with a banker placing assets as collateral for more lines of credit, or getting unsecured lines, or really maxing out that Spark, 2% cash back credit card. So you got to have that in place. The other thing is a massive challenge that we see, and we see this all the time. When you started your business, it's blood, sweat, and tears that you pour into it. You took that leap. You went all in. And I'm speaking to the specifically to people. You're all in on you. You're not getting money from family and friends. You don't have a rich uncle. It's you. So you build that business, and at that time, because you're all in and you're using all of your resources on paper, you probably look like a broke person. So you don't have a lot of advisors, whether it be tax, legal, financial advisors, banging on the door at that time, right? You're totally not their avatar at that moment. But then the business starts to take off, you become profitable, you generate capital, and now you're really starting to get some growth in the business, and they're all trying to bang down your door. And what are they telling you? What are a lot of financial people telling you? Let me take some capital outside of your business and diversify it for you in the financial markets, at stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Sounds like a great idea. But what you did right there is you took money that you used to reinvest in your own business, which there's no investment that will ever beat investing back in your own business. It's impossible. Then you're either doing it wrong. If you can find anything else that beats out and reinvesting in your own business, you're doing it wrong. So at that point in time, I love Apple. I'm recording this on Apple products, right? I love Apple. Tim Cook's great. But Tim Cook and Apple doesn't need more of my money to grow their business. My own business does. So it all becomes about positioning capital at that point to always have access to liquidity, to either hire other employees, invest in technology, and grow your business and fuel that growth. There will be a time for diversification, and there's different ways to do it at the right time. And then also that helps you then to manage these cash flow cycles, as I shared about better. So where a lot of leaders get into trouble, and CEOs, especially as a CEO, you cast the vision, right? You set the culture in your organization, in your company. You are in charge of strategy. It's you. The buck starts and stops with you. And then, of course, you got to find the financing. What I always try to share with people is you want to have multiple sources where the financing comes from, even as a smaller business owner. You don't have to be, the CEO of a corporately listed, traded company, Fortune 100 company. When you're a small business owner, it's the same thing. You're in charge of getting the capital to grow and scale that business. So you want to have multiple sources to do it. And that's some of the stuff that we talk about.
Yes, it's not also, as I'm hearing you talk, it's not even winter and summer, because even if the cash flow is good all year, let's say, and you're doing fine, there's opportunities that come or unexpected expenses come. So it's actually multifactorial. You may, be at a position where someone gives you this great opportunity that's going to require a lot of capital to execute it, and that wasn't in your budget. Or you may have some sort of setback that was also not anticipated. So it's, the winter, summer, it's the opportunities, the unexpected, new competitor comes in the market, some of your business goes away, or there's an opportunity to get more business. So, investing in new technology that just popped up, your old technology is antiquated. And so as I'm hearing you talk, it's on many levels, people who are able to decipher that code of, being able to manage their cash flow, definitely have an upper hand. And, we always hear that often many businesses fail not because they have a bad idea or they're not working hard or they don't have the right people. Sometimes just, you run out of cash.
That is such a true statement right there. You could have the best idea, best product, and you could actually be crushing it, and you could be crushing yourself out of business by doing too well, right? Especially if it's a physical product. which you have to order, you have to warehouse, you have to bring it in, you have to fulfill it, right, and so forth. So no, cash flow management comes is cardinal. And to your point, you got to prepare for anything and everything. We and how we're marketed to as humans. We humans, we're strange creatures. We're marketed to always about the shiny object, kind of like, oh, the offense in the wealth world, right, in the wealth space. But what about defense? So as a young kid in South Africa, I actually took up some boxing, and the first thing they teach you in boxing is, number one, how to not get your teeth knocked out and how to protect your face, right? And then the second thing is how to go knock the other guy's teeth out and go knock the other guy. But the first thing is to protect yourself. So in business, we always, and I love the aggressiveness of business owners always focusing on the offense, but you got to play good defense. So where a holistic strategy comes in is defensive systems with offensive systems, because you got to prepare for anything and everything. As you stated, you might have a competitor come in and knock out a product line right away. There's a lot of different variables that you as a CEO have to be on top of and be prepared for.
Right. In fact, I did a whole podcast on one of my favorite topics, which is a good CEO is really the worrier in chief. They got to go home every night and just worry. Like, worry, what happens if somebody takes that market away? What happens if we lose that big client? If you're not staying up at night worrying, metaphorically, then you're going to get blindsided. So yes, you got to be on the offensive, but you also have to be on the defensive, worrying about, what could happen next.
eNational testing makes getting a simple laboratory test as easy as ordering something online. With 3 simple steps, you can have your tests ordered for STDs, general health, allergy testing, diabetes screening, blood titers, and more. You can simply go in for testing the same day and get your results quickly to your email. eNationalTesting.com's complete healthcare panels come with easy-to-understand results at over 2,700 locations nationwide. It's time to focus on yourself. eNationalTesting.com. Easy, convenient, and tailored to your health needs.
I want to pivot now and talk about something that we talk a lot about on this show, which is building culture, enrolling people into your vision, getting people, your staff, especially your senior staff, but all staff, to view the whole organization as something they own, that they're not just renting, that they're actually owners. And I know you have some strategies that you mentioned in the past, but can you speak to that about building culture, enrolling people in your vision, and improving employee retention, and having people singing all from the same songbook, as it were?
Yeah, building teams, right? That building, and there's no shortcuts to that. And the start to it, obviously, is having people to buy into your vision of having a compelling vision, and also having some sort of track record in place of you having executed and have had some success. That helps, because there's a lot of people with vision out there. So when you have those things in place, when you've got a compelling vision that people want to buy into and want to be a part of it, now it becomes, okay, people are attracted to that, but how do you create a culture that is going to build this team, which is the glue, right? So how do you do that? And of course, there's a lot of different things, but having, of course, the glue of accountability, having people feel part of the process, having them buy into the entire process of how you're going to get there, because you might have a vision, but with 10 people, there might be 10 different ways of how they want to get there. So let them buy into that process of how do we get there, and craft and map out a plan of how to get there. The other thing is recruiting a top talent and maintaining a top talent. You're going to have some incentives in place. So yes, of course, people say, well, the easiest way to make them feel like an owner is to give them some ownership. But that's not always the case. That might actually, in some cases that I've seen, be to the detriment of everybody. Because now
it backfires. I've seen that word backfire. Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. They feel like, oh, I've got ownership shares now. Now I can take my foot off the gas. But what you can do is you can put incentives in place and craft compensation packages where you reward them. And because that is in place, there's contracts, for example, to make folks stay, 5 years, 10 years, having that in place and having them continually buy in. That's going to help, because I've also seen people, they buy into a compelling vision. You have a track record of success of doing that. You've included everybody to craft out this blueprint. You get the buy-in from everybody, but then somebody else comes along with another vision,
A better
and they
vision.
go, oh, I like, MC's great, but John over there, I feel like 2-3 years into this, I've kind of like the honeymoon phase is over. I got to go over there, right?
Yeah, I get it.
So you have to have something in place.
So how do you help your clients with that? Like when they come to you and they're like, my employee retention is not where I want it to be. I kind of feel a lot of people are clocking in and out. I'm not seeing that hunger. How do you help your clients with that?
Yeah, you can put together in some of the strategies that we use. One is called a key person strategy. So a key person strategy is a person that's critical to your business, a key person, and that person that you want to keep and make sure, because your business is going to struggle without that person. You can create basically a strategy where for 10 years, if you hit certain growth targets every single year, you will contribute a certain amount into a vehicle that we use of life insurance for them. Put the money in there. Now, why would they stay? Because you're offering them a life insurance policy. Well, ask Jeffrey Immelt for that stayed with GE, and ask Jim Harbaugh that was recruited by the University of Michigan. You put money into these policies that's growing tax-free, and it's guaranteed in for them. So if they stay for 10 years, for example, they could walk away with millions of dollars tax-free in a policy. Now, that's going to help them buy in. Now, every key person strategy is different. It's specific to exactly what you want to accomplish, the size of the business, the profit, and of course, the targets that you have. But you can have things in those in place, because, yeah, I mean, like I said, when the honeymoon phase is over, if you have something like that little carrot there for them to stick around, they're going to think twice before they run over to someone else.
Yeah, but can I give you some? So, for someone who's thinking about doing something like that,
yes,
do they ever come up to you and say, "Well, that's all good and fine, but I'd like something. How do I get more organic buy-in?" In other words, it's sort of like, well, I'm going to stick around because there's this thing at the end of the rainbow, but, I'm not sleeping, eating, breathing this business. So you could see how someone could give you the blowback, like, okay, you wouldn't want to get married because somebody just thinks, you got a lot of money, or they're going to whatever. How do you marry that sort of concept of compensation, but get organic buy-in? Like, on some level, wouldn't the best employee be someone who's going to stick with you even if they didn't have that? So how do you prevent that from being the real and only motivation?
You're in trouble if that's the only motivation that they have, I think. So yeah.
So you need to select out who you give this to, because they should also have some organic motivation.
That's why we call it a key person. So this is a person that have proven themselves. They're key to the business. They've bought in. They're all in.
I see.
And
so you're not going to give this to someone who has got potential that's coming along. This is someone who's already done it without the carrot, and now you're just going to give them the carrot.
That's correct. Yes. So this is already someone that's proven themselves for a number of years. This is not, you don't offer this to any person that just comes into your world. These are people that you select and that you look at and say, I don't want my business to operate without them. They're cardinal to what we're doing. So we're going to reward them and put them in place. But I agree with you 100%. It's, people do there. I mean, listen, there might be some people that do things just for money, but that's not how everybody operates. So the majority of people, especially if you're going to spend more time uh, and a company or a business that you do actually with your family during the week, right? You're going to need other things to get them motivated, and they would have bought in, they would have been all in, and that's why you reward them for this. So instead of, one of the conversations could be because people are like, well, why wouldn't you just give them shares or ownership? Do you know that sometimes, number one, it could be a family business. Number two is if you do the ownership shares, there's no immediate financial benefit to it unless you eventually sell the business. So what security is there for someone else in selling the business, right? When are you going to sell the business? 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now? What is it going to be worth? How is that deal going to look? How is it going to be executed? How much capital is up front? Is there seller financing? Like, there's so many unknown variables, but if you put something like this in front of them, they know, okay, directly correlated to my performance, this is my financial benefit. Where sometimes, especially if it's a very small amount of shares of the business and ownership, you're just, I mean, it's kind of just throwing it up in the air, right? So I think it's a good way to reward them, where something that they could see every single year, basically, if you review it with them.
I love it. Okay, so before I wrap up, do want to ask you, you obviously in your position get to meet and interview potential clients, real clients that you take on. And I don't want to pigeonhole you, but what is like one or two common missteps that you see CEOs make that are just pretty much every time you see a company that's struggling, you're like, oh yeah, that's like it's a common denominator for a lot of them. How about that? Is there any pattern to some of the ones that struggle with the financial aspects of their growth of their
Absolutely. I could share with you because I did that too until I caught myself. I created my own prison. So a lot of the stuff that I teach and share is mistakes that I've done personally.
Okay, so yeah, well, tell us.
Yeah. So one of the things is just not working inside of the business and not on the business. And it sounds very simple, but I can tell you this: you can even have a lot of success and build your own prison as a CEO or as a leader.
If you do what? If you do what?
If you only work inside of the business,
I
you
see.
kind of have, yeah. And most people say, well, how could that be bad? I did that, and then 3 years in, I'm like, I'm basically in a prison. Working like 20 hours a day, and we're very successful, but I'm not going to survive at this rate.
Also, can I give you like my angle on that? Because it's very interesting you said that, and you maybe give me some feedback. But if your business needs you to come in and literally like handle a client or do this or do that, that business is only going to grow as much as you have time to put in versus if you're outside the business and you are managing high level direction, it's not stipulated on you. You could theoretically, if you had to go to, let's say, God forbid, someone's sick in South Africa and you got to go for 3-4 months. If you're in that first scenario, your business is going to be toast. Versus you go to South Africa and you got some Zoom and you got the laptop and you're doing this and you're doing that. So it allows you, one, a certain level of personal freedom, but also I think it's not predicated on you actually doing the work. And I often think about doctors who have burnouts and dentists who have burnouts and stuff like that. And that's often not because of any other thing than they actually have to deliver the product.
Yes.
Right. So when you are the one delivering the product, and also you're only as good as how many products you can deliver. If you want your company to 10x or 20x, you can't 10x 40 hours of work. I mean, you just can't. But go ahead.
You hit the nail on the head at that time. And we're talking now, this is about 8 years ago. Anyway, a mentor said to me, MC, the more you work in your business, the less it's worth. You know that, right? And I'm like, you're right. So I started to be more strategically focusing outside of the business and looking at inefficiencies, especially when it comes to finance. How do I optimize things? How do I fine tune things? How do I do things better? And what you just said, I smiled because you hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah, you should have me on your show then. I should tell
I,
your
I,
guests.
I actually just spent the past month in South Africa, an entire month with my family. So it was funny when you said that because yes, now I can. So it's a lesson that I learned like 8 years ago because yeah, you got to be strategically and you have to look at all of the inefficiencies that you have from the
And you
financial.
can't see it when you're buried inside, when you're making the pizza or when you're flipping the burger,
Yep.
you're not getting the satellite view of the burger joint.
No. No, you're not. And you probably haven't figured out at that stage that you should own the real estate underneath the burger joint, right? And have the burger joint finance the real estate and add more real estate and more burger joints like Ray Kroc, right?
Right, right, right. So there you go. So I think we get it. And I think this is a valuable lesson because uh, if you really want to exponentially grow, at some point, you have to disassociate, like you said, you working in the business versus on the business. It's interesting, but if you follow that strategy, I would argue sometimes you can even work harder not being on your business, not being in your business. So I think a lot of people, you won't be in your business, so you'll have a cushy life, and you could, whatever. But the opportunity for you to work even harder, but on things that translate into a much bigger impact, right? I mean, if you spend 5 hours, delivering a product to an end user of your company versus 5 hours meeting with a strategic partner that you can somehow join forces together, those 5 hours are not the same 5 hours in terms of impact.
Absolutely. And the very small things that you pick up and realize that while you're standing and looking back at your business strategically could make, I mean, the ripple effect and the exponential effect could be enormous. One of our clients, for example, family-owned business, he's been working 20 years into it. He's probably going to be like another 10, 15 years. We added one thing just from a cash flow management strategy, and he's eventually going to sell the business to the kids, which was going to be an income stream for retirement. Great plan. One tweak that he made, he's now going to walk away with $5 to $6 million tax free, and then sell the business and have an income stream from the kids. There's just one thing that he did, and I mean that's a lot of money for small business owners to walk away with, right?
By the way, it's interesting about that one thing that you're saying. A friend of mine once told me, when you come up with your best ideas on how to tweak your own business,
Yep.
and write down where you were when you came up with it. He goes, you'd be surprised how many times it's not when you're having a staff meeting, with everyone in the room. It's you're in the shower, you're walking the dog, you're,
Yep.
you're having a beer with a friend, and you're just, and that's what I talk about, like, working on the business, because if all the great ideas happen when you're having meetings and you're on a Zoom call or whatever, not to minimize that, but I'm surprised how many eye-opening strategic things that were right in front of you, became obvious at a time where you wouldn't have thought it.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's those times when you unplug. So you can be more creative because the different side of your brain is also functioning and working, right? A walk in nature. I was on safari. I took my kids on safari for the first time in August in South Africa. I got a lot of ideas on a game drive. And my wife's like, "What are you doing? You were on vacation." I said, "I know, but it's coming to me now. I've got an idea about this. I got an idea about that. I'm just writing it all down. I'm not going to work on it now, but it opens up. It's a different environment too. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we have a lot in common in that sense. Well, listen, this has been amazing. I think very helpful for our viewers and helpful to me to hear it. So tell us about if someone wants to get in contact with you, learn more about some of your strategies, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you and learn more?
Producerswealth.com/Baktari MD. So I put a page together for your listeners, and
Thank you.
everything is there. So Baktari MD, but it's producerswealth.com/Baktari MD. And then we are actually right now doing giving away a free paperback copy of the book, Get Wealthy for Sure, the #1 financial strategy for business owners to multiply wealth predictably. So they just pay for shipping. That'll be on there. And there's a ton of other resources for all of your listeners and your viewers.
Yeah, perfect. I'll make sure that link is in the show notes wherever people are seeing or hearing this, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube or any of the other platforms. Well, thank you so much. I actually learned a lot and really appreciate everything you're doing for all your clients. Wish you a lot of success. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that could be helped by some of the stuff you're doing. So hopefully they'll reach out to you and get the proper push they need to move to the next level. Thank you so much for being on the show, and hopefully we'll see you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Be well. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.